analyst. Well, let me move on to our next focus now, which incidentally, it turns out that a lot of focus has been on INEC, and why not? But I mean, they are the election management body. But today we've got someone who perhaps may give us a bird's eye view of how some of these things might have played, and maybe a little bit of background story. Professor Lai Olorode, former INEC National Commissioner. Good to see you again, Prof, and thank you for coming on.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, I know perhaps you may have been used to some of this backlash in terms of after elections are conducted, people, different perspectives about how INEC has performed, but you've seen a lot that has happened, particularly for this election. So what are your views?
Well, in terms on a comparative basis, in some respects, I think the present commission had done quite well in some respects. Of course, there has to be challenges in any electoral contest. When you look at the fact that you simultaneously you can get accredited and you can do your voting. In 2015, there were two separate exercises. So when you're talking about the expenditure of time in the electoral process, you spend less time this time around compared to 2015. When you also take a look at the distribution of permanent voters card, in 2011, you will recall what we used in 2011 was the temporary voters card, which of course made it very difficult to sanitize or effectively fumigate the electoral environment. And that's why you had about 40 million votes in 2011. By 2015, with the introduction of technology into the electoral process, you had just about 29, less than 30 million people actually voted in that election. One of the challenges that 2015 had was that of not being able to distribute permanent voters cards satisfactorily. Of course, that was not what was responsible for the postponement of the election. It had to do with security issues. But when we had that 4-week extension, the Jaga-led commission was able to distribute more permanent voters cards. I think we had about 68 million or thereabout. I think this time around, over 70 million PVC also were distributed, and you had also increased number of population on the voters register. The voters roll was improved.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that in terms of the voter turnout, but let me just quickly follow up on what you alluded to while you were making your opening comments. You know, those who wonder, I just read a comment from, I think, ADD, Alliance for Defense of Democracy. They raise a view. They think that, look, they have a question about, since we have the continuous accreditation and voting procedure applied for this particular elections, they don't understand why is it that the total number of votes cast, it's always different, or in this case, it's different in many cases, to the total number of accredited voters, because they thought when you accredit, you vote. So is it that people got accredited?
There could be, don't forget, there were quite a number of voided votes. Some votes had to be discontinued because people, if you look at the figures of wasted votes in this election, it's quite frightening. Did you have had a look at the size of the presidential ballot? It's quite huge. When I go there to cast my vote, I was confused myself, in spite of my being a literate voter. The size is very intimidating. Secondly, there's nothing that says that once you get accredited, it's not compulsory that you must vote. People can just decide there and then not to even drop the ballot, not to thump it at all, and just leave the voting arena.
Or they can just get themselves accredited.
You can get accredited and leave. There's no point, there's no law that says that you must get accredited, and once you get accredited, you must therefore cast.
But that would be very, very.
But it's a possibility. It can't be removed, but it's a possibility. Because I can't not fathom any other reason why there should not be a tally between the number of accredited voters and the number of people that will have cast their votes.
Could it be for reason of apathy or?
No, for so many reasons. You know, sometimes, let me also say this. This has been a recurrent decimal in our electoral process. Vote by. It's possible that no deal was struck as at the time, and they expect you to display somehow, by whatever means, to let the person who's going to pay you see which party you are trying.
Yeah, but that's different, bro, because in that case, you will have to vote.
No, what I'm saying is that if you are not able to strike any bargain, it is possible that you just made up your mind that you can decide that what's the point. How can somebody be asking me to be bribed to vote by that I'm not interested in the processing? And that can happen at any time. And you cannot bring by a law to say that once you get accredited, you must make sure. It looks so hard that it shouldn't happen, but the possibility is there that it can happen at any time.
But there's not a significant figure that we should bother about, is it, that particular incident?
Of course, it's a rare occurrence, but the possibility, the probability of it occurring, if it occurred in so many cases in a particular polling unit, that can be a situation where...
Is it possible that we expect INEC's audit to give us an answer to this?
INEC should be able to, but I think it's beyond INEC. Once you have made a return, I'm sure that kind of case, INEC can just do it for its own, for education, for academic purpose.
Should they make it public?
But not all to trigger, to firm up the March election, but not for the purpose of actually correcting what had gone wrong, because that would be beyond it.
Pardon me, does it mean that they don't, or they may not find a need for them to find out what exactly happened?
No, I'm saying that INEC can do that, but not for the purpose of reviewing the process that had gone by, because that is too late.
Yeah, but that's
already taken place.
The
tribunal, the judiciary will have to intervene, and then you can get a judicial response to that situation. But INEC can also factor that in for subsequent elections, the gubernatorial and House of Assembly election, and for its own education as well, as to what actually worked, because it's an anomaly that ought not have occurred.
I'm just wondering, is it INEC's principle to make either public or otherwise their audit report?
Well, every document in this country is a public document. I know under JEGA we audited the 2011 elections, and I'm sure if anybody had requested to see, because it's for public, because there are different stakeholders in the electoral process. You have the security agencies, you have all kinds of the political parties also have a lesson to learn.
Yeah.
And you can say some of the challenges we have in this election can be ascribed to political parties. The absence of discipline within parties.
This is also in relation to the expectation with regards to the INEC's audit of the whole process. In that, in your opening submissions, you did say that there were some parts of the process that you feel INEC did well, and others that may be questioned and waiting for INEC to come up with a statement on that.
No,
which areas did it do well?
To your programs, this already can be said to be in the public domain. Let's say 3 or 4 critical areas where I hope there will be improvement in subsequent elections. I'm looking at 2023 now, even.
No, I'm asking which areas did they do well?
One, for example, is in terms of logistics. Logistic conundrum have been a challenge.
No, I'm asking which part did they do well?
Oh, I've mentioned those. I said in terms of the distribution of PVC, the merging of accreditation and voting simultaneously. You can't fault that. You know, and in terms in the area of voter education as well, whether it played out or not is a different thing. I think many quite diverse organizations are involved in voter education. Okay. Training of electoral staff also. I think quite a number of new people, new returning officers were brought on board, and they had received, I talked to some of them, professors in UNILAG. And again, in terms of consistent use of previously deployed ad hoc staff, that also came on board. So what we expect INEC to do in the next election is to have a data bank where it can draw staff from. I was in Ghana for an election observation, and I was amazed by what I saw there. A school teacher, alone in the polling unit, no security, nothing whatsoever. The security person was just relaxing somewhere. And I asked her, you feel so confident? He said, why not? He said, I've been doing this for the past 15 or so years. And this year will mark 2 decades of democratization in this country as well. If you attain more dexterity, the more you get involved in the process. You are not just somebody who is new. I've listened to the returning officers. They say, I'm not sure I've seen any of them that fumbled or that made mistakes, except in Nemo, the guy who said he was under incarceration. He went through some ordeal and he had to just announce a figure. He ought to have resigned. He shouldn't have taken it up to that point. Yeah, it's not a new experience. It happened in Nemo in 2015 before Okorocha came in. And I think I was part of the team that Jega sent to Imo State. The guy also had the same challenge.
How did that end up?
He was receiving calls that his life will not be safe.
Okay, I saw that on live TV as well.
Unless he declared Joachim as the governor. And the guy said, he said to her that, look, I can't carry on any longer. My family's under, they have been threatened. And he just resigned. And that's the most honorable thing to do. So I don't see how INEC can now go back and reverse what had been announced.
So it's only the tribunal that can do it?
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think. And that, I think, is the law.
But how do you think that will play out in court if they tender any sort of video in the event that maybe there's a video showing?
No, it's a question of evidence. I don't see much challenge in that. When I look at the figures as well, I look at the PDP vote, I look at what Okorocha was said to have. You know, I don't want to be subjugated.
Okay, you talked about INEC's voter education activities in the run-up to this election, and you said you praised the effort, but then you fault the results.
No, what I mean is that don't forget that I also said that INEC alone cannot be said to be culpable in this. For example, how can INEC...
What layer of voter education belongs to INEC?
No, well, at its partnership, INEC alone cannot, no institution of government, no parastatal can do just voter education. Or National Orientation Agency is there. The media also is. You also do a lot of voter education channels, which is a public responsibility, and all of us have to be involved. Well, what I'm saying is that when you look at the quantum of wasted ballots, the one I saw yesterday, if it is true, is close to 1 million or so.
But you also said that for you it was a shock therapy of sorts to see how big the presidential ballot paper was.
The size.
The size of it. If you saw it first time at the polling unit, then one could say that INEC didn't quite do well in letting people know what they were going to
confirm. I saw some samples before.
But not everybody did.
Well, maybe not everybody did. But what I'm saying is that, look, again, when you look at the data that we have seen, the analysis that we have followed, are true. Nigeria definitely is a two-party state. But again, the Balarabe Musa case, which was handled by Chief Gani Fahimi, the outcome of that in the Supreme Court was responsible for the unmanageable number of political parties that you have. You know, you have the fringe parties, the small parties, some of the parties that you know very well. You can place them. You know, so it's a big challenge and it's somebody. I just imagine how my mother, if she were to be able to walk out and vote, she won't be able to do anything at all. She'll be helpless. Of course, you can be assisted.
What can be done about that?
It's to look, in most civilized countries, you don't allow just anybody to wake up and form parties. There must be a benchmark. Like, for example, there must be qualifications for you to be on the ballot. Be on the ballot. It's a serious business. Yeah, the country is wasting a lot of money. If you win a local government state, for example, or you win House of Assembly election, let's start with local government elections. If you have never won any local government election, you want to become a president, your party has never won any seat. It's a big joke. It doesn't make sense at all.
We'll continue on this in just a moment. Stay with us.